Now, as Adam said, we know that retirement is evolving, and it's not just about ceasing work. It really is about, okay, well, what do I want to do? And making sure that you're able to actually live the retirement that you want to live. You've worked up until this point. You don't want to just stop. You want to maybe sit there and think, okay, well, what am I going to want to be doing that's going to keep me mentally stimulated, keep me happy, keep me fit? And then, from that, what cost is associated to it? Now, I'm really passionate about retirement, which might seem a bit weird to all of you, considering, as Adam pointed out, maybe I'm not at the same age bracket as a few people here. But I am really passionate about it, and I'm really excited to be hosting the panel event today. I'm just going to introduce everyone here. So obviously you've just met Adam, and he's, as you kind of heard, he's really passionate about making retirement more accessible and less daunting, because let's be honest, superannuation can feel pretty complex. If you don't look at it every day like I do, it definitely doesn't come as first nature. We're also joined just next to Adam there by Scarlett McCone, and as Adam kind of said before, Scarlett used to be one of our educators. She was a pretty big mentor to me, and Scarlett retired a few years ago. After a little while, she was like, you know what, I miss Bree so much, I want to return. Want a little bit more of some mental stimulation. She was able to, have this opportunity to come back, work casually, help out another way and keep herself really, mentally stimulated. And that's kind of just a demonstration that retirement's absolutely what you make of it. And then next to Scarlett over there is Martin G, and he's the manager of our financial planning team and our super specialist team. Now, Martin has over 30 years of experience helping members, both, writing full financial advice plans and managing, our team of financial advisors and super specialists. And, being the manager of those two teams, our super specialists providing, general advice and support, and then our financial advisors obviously providing financial plans and support. He has a really unique perspective on, the transition from general to financial, and, what might mean someone might be a little bit more suited for financial advice compared to general, and those kinds of things. Now, I really want to say, this is a panel discussion for you to be involved in as well. I obviously have a few questions to get us going so that you can hear some really great insights from these three. But if you have any questions, Mark, who you've heard from before, is going to be running around with a microphone, and so stick your hand up, flag him down, yell out his name, whatever you like, and you can absolutely ask a question for our panelists. We do kind of have a set time frame here, but there's going to be plenty of opportunity after at the end of the kind of formalities here, when we're out there, for you to come up and ask any questions to our panel members, myself, my fellow CSC staff that are here. And so if you don't get your questions answered here, you'll have plenty of time later. Alrighty, let's get started. So, Martin, I'm going to start with you, if that's okay. Now, a lot of people put off thinking about super because they assume it's complicated. Now, what's the easiest first step that someone can take to start engaging with their super?
Just going to check this works. Yeah, great. Okay, complicated. So, has anybody put together a piece of IKEA furniture recently? Now try it without the instructions. That's what we're doing at the moment if you don't get some advice and some assistance. So I guess the first thing that we need to do is know what we can do for you. So you've got to think, right, okay, where am I at with my journey of learning about my super? So your first thing you've got to do, you're going to start with the instructions. So what are the rules? What do I need to do? And we've got loads of that on the website. We've got videos, we've got factual information for you. And so you might think, yeah, I've done that, Martin, bit past that, thanks. So then you might say, well, okay, do you need a deeper understanding? So do you need somebody to kind of make it work for you? So I've read that, but how does it actually apply to me? So we've put up a new team, call them the super specialists, and what they do, they'll give you half an hour. And that half an hour will be for you to actually discuss how this works for you, so your life stage. They can't give you personal advice, but what they can do is really help you get a deeper understanding. And their role really is to give you confidence to take some steps yourself. And if at the end of that meeting you go, all right, great, but I still need somebody to show me what to do, then that's the personal advice. That's where you'd use a financial advisor. So that might be a paid service, or it might be intra-fund advice. So the intra-fund meaning your PSSAP. So they're the three things that we can do, and you can step in at any stage and you can use our seminars and the videos, and you can go backwards and forwards. So please reach out to us. It's really important. Get those instructions and get those bits of information that will help you. Okay, one of the first things that, so complicated, yeah, very complicated, and they keep changing the rules, so not great. So imagine the instruction book, and you open it and the page is blank and it's a new one. So what we say is, you've got to look at this from your point where you know you are now. So you'll say, right, what's superannuation? So it's just a tax-effective umbrella. So think umbrella. One side of that umbrella, you put your money in, your accumulation account, PSS accumulation plan. So that's pretty simple. We've been doing that for a long time. Then you retire and you use the other side of the umbrella. It doesn't come out of the umbrella, can still be invested, and then you start drawing an income from it. Often it's even more tax efficient. So the idea has always been put as much under the umbrella as you can, helps your retirement. Now that's where it gets complicated, because you go, well, okay, but how much do I need to put in? How much do I draw out? And how does it actually work? Again, be a lot for us to talk about today, but those are the things to come and speak to somebody about. So get the starting point. So I don't know if any of you have logged in, but you've got your CSE Navigator. So have a look what your balance is. So get some of the rules, have a look at your balance. And then we've got a retirement modeler. Put your numbers in there, have a look what the outcome is. Now, the thing with a calculator often is if we don't have an idea what the output is going to be, we have no confidence in it. So in other words, a calculator, if you've no idea that 10 times 10 is 100 and it gives you 10,000 as a result, you just go, great, I'm going to retire on $10,000 a month. So if you're unsure, you put your numbers in and you're unsure about the output, then give the team a ring, send them an email, and they'll go through it with you and they'll give you a bit more confidence in that. All right, I guess that enough for that one. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Martin. I guess before we move over to Scarlett, I'll have to ask you one more question. So, you must hear a lot from members, both yourself and your, experience, financial planning, assisting members over the last 30 years. But on top of that, our financial advice team has been around for quite some time, and our super specialists were created around 1 to 2 years ago, and have been active and seeing tons of members. What would you think kind of the number one inquiry that they would get would be?
Yeah, before I answer that, I'm going to tell you a story. So a bit like Adam's with the 30 years. So I've been in planning for 30 years. And planning's changed in 30 years as well, thank goodness. So 30 years ago, the questions, well, you kind of didn't get to ask any. You'd come up and see a planner, and the planner would say, retirement, I've got just the thing for you. Now you'd think, you're not Anthony Lay, so you can't read my mind, and you don't know what the right thing for me is. But the thing is, nowadays, it's totally different. You've all got a better picture of retirement, and you've got questions to ask. So we need you to come and speak to our people. They'll start by asking you some questions, getting a bit of a deeper understanding for where you're at. Then they'll help you with some strategies, help support you with your ideas. And then from there, you'll get your clear next steps as to where to go from there. But questions, so typical questions, and we were just chatting outside actually, and the first question a chap asked me was my first question on here. How does it actually work? So what happens? I'm retiring. What's the process? You kind of know from work. They tell you, you come in on this day, hand your passes in and your keys, and all that happens. But what happens with my super? So again, that's a bit of the rule book. You want to know what happens, the process. Feel a little bit more reassured. Okay, so I know what's going to happen. Now I can start feeding my things into there. Okay, second question I put down. Am I on track for retirement? So have we all thought that? When am I ready? Am I on track? Have I got enough? And really you are asking two questions. So the first question is, when can I retire? Well, you can all retire tonight. But before you get your text messages out and start sending the boss a message, have you got enough to retire tonight? And that's the second question, isn't it? You think, okay, I can retire, but have I got enough for me? You'll talk to your mates, you'll talk to your neighbours, you'll talk to family, and they'll all tell you, oh, you've got enough, or oh, this is the right time for you. But again, you need a bit of confidence, you need a bit of reassurance, and we've got people who will help you with that stuff. It's funny as well, with the how much is enough for retirement. This is one of Scarlett's, I won't pinch this because it's Scarlett's favourite subject, but it's about knowing what you actually spend now. So we've spent all our working life looking at how much do we earn, and I go tapping Adam up and saying, oh, I want my gross salary a bit higher, please, after tonight. But then when we retire, it isn't about that anymore. It's about the net amount that comes into your bank. So the tax changes, you don't have money going out into super, those sorts of things change. Hopefully the mortgage ends. So start thinking about what's coming into the bank and what you're spending, and planning, can I retire on this amount of money? That'll help you. Okay, next question. Did you have another question? I did. So the next one was that you tend to ask, am I invested correctly for retirement? So I've invested my money with CSC and Alison Tarditi, really good investment manager, looks after your money, does her job well, but you're coming up to retirement and you say, is this the right investment approach for me now? Well, there's a bit of a myth here, and it might not be for everybody, but when I get to retirement, I need to be more cautious. Now, Adam's just told us something. He said that at age 60, you could have another 30 years to live. So you don't want to go, at 60, I'm going to retire at 65. So my investment term now is 5 years. Your investment term could actually be 30 years. So you don't want your money to run out because you thought, well, I better put it all in cash because I'm retiring in 5 years. Now, I'm not saying that that would be for everybody. Some people will need to be in cash. You're going to use it to pay off a mortgage or different things. But it's just about thinking about the way you're invested might not be exactly what everybody's told you it should be. So again, come and see somebody, or they're all video calls now. So I like a bit old school, and come and see somebody. They were the days. But talk to somebody, do a video call, let them talk to you about investment approaches, and then if you do need someone to make that decision for you, help you with personal advice, we've got that as well. At the heart of all of these questions, really there's two things: confidence and reassurance. Often it's just reassurance to say, you're doing okay, you're on the right track. And the other side of it is confidence. Confidence that you can make a decision yourself and you think, yeah, I'm happy with that. The calculator's giving me the result that I hoped and I thought it would.
Perfect. All right, thank you so much, Martin. I'm going to move over to Scarlett. Now, as both Adam and myself have said, Scarlett actually retired a few years ago, but here she is working again. I just wanted you to take us through that journey a little bit, Scarlett. What led to that decision, and what have you learnt from the experience?
What have I learned? Apart from that, I was a mentor, but thank you for that compliment as well. What did I learn? I learned that I thought I was confident going into retirement. I did all the research, I did the numbers, but when I went into retirement, I was scared. I'll be honest with you guys, I was really scared, and I did my stuff, I did my homework. But what I did discover was that there's a lot of myth out there. And even for someone as well informed as me, that some of the numbers out there are just really left of field. So don't be scared off by people telling you need tens of millions. Really, going back to what Martin said, look at your budget. Think about what you're spending. Hopefully you're fortunate enough, and I count myself as very fortunate, as not having a mortgage, so that I was able to go into retirement with no mortgage. So my money wasn't going to the mortgage or going to rent, and that's a different scenario. And not everybody's that fortunate, so you need to take that into account. But in saying that, money isn't everything. I'm comfortable financially. I'm very fortunate, very grateful, but I worked hard. And I did use a financial planner, and I did my numbers, and I did all the things that You would expect somebody or hope somebody in my position. I wasn't the motor mechanic that had the worst car, I can promise you. But in saying that, it wasn't just about that. I retired, you saw that picture. Thank you, Philippa, for dragging it off out of one of my holiday photos. That was taken pretty much after I retired. Went up north and gallivanted around and did one of my bucket list things. But I came back and Adam mentioned, all of a sudden, I didn't have structure. I did my Pilates, I engaged with some other groups, but I still had a lot of spare time. And I still thought that I had something to give back, hopefully to give back. And I've been really fortunate again, and that the organisation allowed me to come back and work part-time. Now, that's not everybody's cup of tea. By no means. I've got friends that are happily retired and are happy doing their crosswords and going to Pilates and looking after the grandchildren or whatever it might be. I've got other people that I've met in retirement who again, some of them work part-time, some of them don't do anything. But in saying that, some of them volunteer. It's finding what's right for you. And I always thought, I would be happy to do nothing. I honestly thought when I retired, I've worked since I was 16 and I've worked really hard. And I thought, no, I'm a bit tired. I'm ready to just go home and read my books and do whatever it was. But I also found that wasn't rewarding for me. What I will say to every one of you in this room, think about what's right for you. What Jill sitting next to you, or Bob sitting next to you, or even the lady at Pilates or whatever you might do, doesn't have to work for you. It can be a blend. I'm really fortunate. I work 3 days a week, hours that work for me. I pretty much have summer off because there's no training in our organisation in summer. So come end of November, I'm normally wrapping up and saying I'll see you in February, when I've come back from holidays and fishing and rejuvenated and ready, hopefully, to give back things that I've learnt over my 40 odd years in the industry, because I was here when superannuation started. So don't feel like you have to abandon your career. For some of you, you might want to. For some of you, you'll find something else. My brother's recently retired, and now he's volunteering, and he goes and he sits with, he's basically a companion. He's got a couple of people that he's been paired up with, and he goes and has coffee with these people, and they share stories, and sometimes he takes them to appointment. That might be your cup of tea. And it might happen that I'll change later. But your retirement is developing. Reach out, look around, ask friends, but don't feel like there's one size fits all. Because just like work and your routine at work, one size doesn't fit all. And what I'll say to you is be happy. Be happy. Find something that makes you happy. Doesn't matter what it is, honest and happy, and then the rest of it will flow through. And I appreciate the opportunity to say hello to some of you. I actually recognise a few of you that I might have been in your agencies at one stage. But just be happy, and to be happy, be confident in the decision you're making. CSC has amazing tools and amazing services. Many of them at no cost to you. The only cost is your time and your engagement. So please take advantage of it. Take advantage of people like Bree, our educator, the financial planners. I know that I often hear financial planning costs, but I'll say I've had a financial planner since I was 19. It set me up to be sitting up here to be able to do what I want to do in retirement. I will steal from Adam, and it's never too late. Even if you haven't started yet, it's not too late. Ask the questions. Get the answers. Get the right answers. The right answers for you, not for the person sitting next to you, unless, of course, that's your partner, so I'll take that away. But the right answers for you and your partner. Not necessarily the man up the street or somebody else who might have talked about it at the water cooler. Enjoy. Take advantage of these events and ask questions. Thank you, Bree.
Thank you, Scarlett. Now, Adam, I'll ask a few questions for you, and then if there's any questions from the audience, I really encourage you to raise your hands. Now, CSC is positioning itself as more than just a super fund, but as a retirement partner. Now, what does that actually mean for members?
Yeah, thanks, Bree. I go back to one of the things that I said before, we've paid pensions for 100 plus years. That's a pension administrator. That's not a retirement partner. Super funds, and I've worked for 5, the CSC is my 5th. Super funds have been proud of the fact that by consolidating money, investing it well and doing all of those kind of things, they get to pay it back out. That's the whole purpose of super. But a retirement partner goes beyond that financial piece. When I first started using that phrase, it was very intentional. We have an industry that has a lot of money, depending on which day you measure it, $4 trillion of money in the super industry. The government needs people to spend and be happy in retirement. And I don't just mean the current government, all governments need people to spend and be happy in retirement. Otherwise, the cost on the government goes up. Now, this comes back to the financials a bit. If you're happy in retirement, if you're well positioned, if you know what you want to do, and if you can contribute, like Scarlett mentioned, you're actually helping out the social side of Australia, and that's pretty important. I think as super funds, we're going to be compelled at some point to do more than just look after the financials. I mentioned before there's some legislative restrictions. There's a thing called the sole purpose test that tells super funds what they're there to do. I think the sole purpose test in the future will be relaxed a little so that we can do more. The government will say, well, super funds, you've got $4 trillion, maybe you should tip in a bit more effort here. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's a very good thing. So at CSC, we're trying to be ahead of the curve. We've done some things about our retirement income strategy, which are really gaining a lot of interest from others in the industry. I've heard us talked about by other super funds because of what we've done on our retirement income strategy. I've heard us talked about by other experts around the industry about what we've done about our retirement income strategy. That's a pretty good position for us, but it's an even better position for all of you because that's us doing something different to benefit all of you if you choose to be part of it, if you choose to lean into this adventure of retirement. And I think that's really the core of what I mean when it's about being a partner, not an administrator.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Adam. Now, is there any questions from anybody in the audience? It could be to one panellist specifically. It could be to the whole panel as a whole. Is there anybody that has any questions that they would like to ask? Yeah, absolutely. A gentleman just down there. Mark this aisle if you would like to walk down.
I am a planner to the point that I know the day, the number I need to reach, the lifestyle that I want after that. What I don't know is what I don't know. I'm interested to hear what some of those scenarios you've come across are people that have been, really well prepared, and then something's happened that's like, had not thought of that whatsoever, didn't consider that. I knew the market could go up, it could go down, I knew that I could lose my social circles or have to move or do these things. What are those things that they just weren't prepared for?
I might start and then maybe flick over to Martin. First of all, great question, and good to know that we've got a fellow planner in the room. I think where people have come undone, what I've seen, is around health. They've probably underestimated the health impacts of getting a little bit older. Like I said before, I've just turned 60. I'm not going to be like my old man. There's not a chance, but I'll guarantee you I am. The kind of things that he went through, I would say today are not for me. I'm just stupid or whatever, but I just don't think it's going to happen. Normally that's teenage boys who think they're bulletproof, but I think most, blokes in particular probably think we're a bit bulletproof. So I think often health issues are underestimated, the cost of it and the implications of that, and that then leads to other challenges in retirement.
Yeah, so if you then thought about, you like to think them as glorious unknowns, but kind of they're not always quite so glorious, are they? And financial things that can crop up. Now, like I said, I've been doing this a long time, and I worked back in a place where there were 11,000 fund choices I could make for my clients. And now, honestly, the thing is that one of the greatest things about retiring and you're worried about these events is get yourself with the fund that you feel comfortable with. Make sure you speak to somebody and you feel comfortable with them. And then when the shocks happen and the rides of, you know, things like currently up and down, and we've had COVID and those sorts of things, but how many of you, probably don't raise your hands, but how many of you moved your money when COVID happened? Most people stayed where they were. Now, they could say it's because I felt really confident in CSC to look after my money, or they could have said I didn't know what to do, or I didn't dare do anything. But often sitting on your hands can be the best advice you can get. So be with a fund that you're comfortable with, and then ask them questions. You know, make sure that, so if shocks do happen, how many people here have got children? Now, you probably remember when your parents retired, and when it came to kind of going and buying coffees and sandwiches, suddenly they stayed sat down and you were at the front. Well, I'm sorry, but that isn't going to happen to you. Your kids will still be sat down and you'll still be paying. So, like I say, the glorious unknowns are not quite so glorious sometimes.
I will definitely say that my parents are at close to retirement age, and I definitely still let them pay for my coffee. Occasionally, I'll step up, but they do most of the paying. Was there any other questions? Thank you so much, guys, for that one.
In considering retirement, if you do want to keep your hand in at the workplace or some other form of employment, I believe there is a restriction, however, that you can only do something like 10 hours a week or 10 hours a fortnight. So that might put a bit of a crimp in the idea of engaging in employment post-work. Could you explain why that is so, or if that is so?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to pass that over to Scarlett, being a former educator. She knows this as well as I do. So Scarlett, I'll pass over to you.
Thanks very much. So we're talking about the work test. And the work test is really important when you're wanting to access potentially more like a lump sum. So I'm not sure about the cohort in this room, so I apologise. I've sort of been a little bit left field. For some of you, you might be in the defined benefit, some of you might be in the accumulation plan, but fundamentally that 10-hour rule is about accessing, so for our defined benefit schemes, accessing that pension, it's a point of time declaration. So I'm going to retire, access my pension. Going back to work, as I have done, restricts me from accessing, so I definitely work more than 10 hours a week for the 40-hour period, for 40 hours over a 30-day period, but that's only restricting me accessing potentially my lump sum from another super pool that I have. It doesn't stop me from getting my pension, but it does stop me from putting my hand in more the accumulation bucket, for simple language. And that's just the government saying that you haven't met basically you're not considered to be retired because you're working more than the 10 hours. So remember, 10 hours so that's 40 hours in a 30-day period, but that's over a 12-month. Now I will say to you, and I've been made aware by my financial planner, who isn't Martin and has nothing to do with this organisation. I've been made very aware that the ATO are very conscious of your work plans, because if we are working, of course, we're getting payment summaries. So it is something to be mindful of. But just remember, if you have retired and you are an accumulation person and you have put your hand in the bucket and you're receiving that income stream, that's not going to stop that income stream either. So it's just understanding where's your income coming from, and how do you want to fund it? So it is an ATO rule. It's not a super rule, but it's about basically saying, what am I working, and then making sure you get the right information from either the ATO or from a financial planner to ensure you don't cause yourself any grief. But yeah, you can't access your super if you're not technically retired.
Perfect.
Did I get it right? Because it's been a little while.
Yes. Yes. Was there any other questions? Anyone in the audience? Yep, just down here. Mark's going to sneak up behind you.
G'day. I'm ex-Defence, and I fall under 3 acts: the DIRCA, DVA, and of course CSC. I'm just about 67. and they cannot tell me where I'm going to lose, what I'm going to get, or anything like that. Is there anyone that can give me the answers?
We might, of course that's going to be personal information of yours, we're not necessarily going to talk about it. I'll come down and or one of the team will get your contact details and we'll get one of the crew to give you a call.
I can assist you with that, absolutely. Cool.
Yeah, we've got a planner just sat over in the corner over there.
Yeah, so just harass him actually. Yeah, he's the one. Hands up, waving. Neil's the one. Alrighty. Yeah, just right down here at the front, Mark. We all want to make sure Mark gets his steps up. He hasn't been doing much today, so thank you very much.
Thank you. I resigned from a position last year, and I've worked for nearly 40 years full-time. So I haven't technically retired yet, but I'm thinking about it. And I've worked for nearly 16 years for a Commonwealth entity. And the other period of time has been split between 2 different state governments. So I've got 3 schemes. And so really, I suppose I'm looking for advice from somebody who is familiar with that sort of situation and can help me as I think about retirement and what to do with the 3 pots of money, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so with that one, what we'll do, so I'll give you a card later and you can give one of the team a ring. Now this is the joy of financial advice nowadays. So you'll talk to one of the planners, they'll just have a chat with you and they'll see which fund you're in, and then they'll be able to say, okay, we'll find out, we'll do the research, and then we'll give you the advice if you need it or you want it from us. And they'll tell you if it's going to cost you, and they'll explain what the value is or if there's enough value for you to have personal advice. They'll also tell you if they can't advise you. So for instance, if you go and see a financial planner and you go, I'm in this scheme, and you can see by the look on the face they've no idea what you're talking about, then they should own up to that, and they have to say to you, I'm sorry, I don't know enough about that scheme to advise you. So, come and see one of the team, they'll have a chat with you and they'll be able to sort that.
Perfect.
I should just say while Mark's running down there too, both of those situations, the gentleman before and yourself, are pretty common, where people have multiple schemes. Before CSC I was with Q Super up in Queensland, so we had a lot of members there who also had a CSC scheme, so they're not completely odd situations.
Sorry to double dip. I've used the modeler that is on the website and it's really good. The one thing, and I blame myself maybe because I haven't delved deep enough into the why, but it says that at a particular point, once you've put in your age, your income, etc., the modeler shows that you'll run out of money by, in my case, age 90. The thing that confuses me is that I've got the balance of the account, there is income coming every year. How is it that you can run out of money? If the account keeps generating enough money for me to annually have enough for a year, how is it that the balance has somehow vanished?
Honestly, I'd have to have a look at that with you. That's what we were saying about the calculator. Sometimes with the retirement modeler as well, if you've got an income and it's attracting kind of growth from an investment to give you an income, it's hard to get that to tally up. So again, I'll give you a card and you can give us a ring and I'll go through it with you on there.
But quite generally on that topic, if you kind of think about it pretty almost simply, what the retirement modeler is doing is it's showing you a balance at retirement, and then it's kind of saying, okay, with this ideal or this idea of a regular earnings on that, as well as the regular withdrawals that you've detailed, which you can slide that scale, you can withdraw more, less, those kinds of things. Realistically, when would that run out? Now, if I have $100,000 and I get 6% interest, well, then I've earned $6,000. If I've taken out $10,000 that year, ultimately my principal money has gone down. Now, if I keep doing that, if I keep taking more than what it's earning, eventually it will go down. If I'm taking in that scenario, if I'm taking $20,000 out, it's going to run out a lot quicker than if I'm only taking $10,000 out. So often with that retirement modeler, it's kind of about figuring out, okay, well, when am I comfortable, firstly, for it to run out? Because, we're not going to live forever. We are going to live for a very long time as, compared to how it used to be. But it's when am I kind of happy for that money to start going down? And if at the moment at age 90, that's not where you're comfortable, it's like, okay, well, maybe what can I, do to potentially increase contributions, extend my retirement by, a year, those kinds of things, and what impact might that have? And that's a really great thing that the super specialists can kind of jump in, show you how to use that tool and all of those things. So if you come find me afterwards, I'll help you book in with one of those super specialists, and that's going to be really great. Alrighty, now, I know that there's...
Can I just say one very
yeah.
quick thing, though? It sounds like the money runs out, but the age pension cuts in.
Yes.
And we've got to be really appreciative of the fact that Australia has a really sustainable aged pension system, which a lot of other countries are very envious of, because when their superannuation runs out, if they've got super at all, there's nothing. So despite us running out of our own money, there's somebody else who is going to contribute.
Perfect. Alrighty. Now, I know that there's probably a few more questions, but I'm really sorry. We'll have to cut it off there because we do just have to move on. However, like I said, please come and find us after this. We have, an hour in the room next door, and we'd love to come and hear from you. I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has, and I know that our panel members here feel the same. It's been a really, really great discussion tonight, and they've obviously given us quite a lot to think about. But we will move on now. So I'm going to, get us to turn our attention to something a little bit different, how you actually picture your future self.